the supernatural and the paranormal. I think a while back I did make a video kind of about this topic, about ghosts and ghouls, and given that it's the month of October, I thought how appropriate to talk about this coming with Halloween coming up. So that's what I'm going to talk to you today about. One of the reasons I don't believe in ghosts and goblins and ghouls and you know, sort of the supernatural or, you know, paranormal, if you will, is based on a physics level, that I can't understand how, first of all, many religious people, and maybe some non-religious people, like to assert that we have a soul, that we have a spirit that lives within us, and like you see in the cartoons, how it kind of floats after someone dies in a cartoon, it floats out of the body kind of thing. And so, I mean, there's no, we can't detect that. There's no way to detect or prove that we have a soul, spirit within us. We don't know. When we die, our consciousness is basically based on, you know, brain activity, and when all you have is the brain, that's, you know, when you're brain dead and that's it, you know, and the body shuts down, there's nothing, we don't have any reason to believe there's anything that goes on beyond to the grave or beyond the afterlife or whatever. So if there was, let's play devil's advocate. Let's assume that all the people out there, the paranormal lovers, the enthusiasts that, you know, think that stuff is real, how would it, if they died, a person dies, would they be able to interact and you know, kind of with the natural world? If they've gone to the afterlife, or if they're, let's say they're trapped like in a purgatory here, and that's, you know, why we still see them is because they couldn't go to the afterlife, that maybe they were trapped here on Earth and in this realm, and so they couldn't. Okay, how, if they no longer have this form, how would they be able to? How would we be able to hear the moans and groans, you know, with the change, that kind of, I mean, it's all Hollywood. We get it, we see that in movies. But, you know, people claim to hear footsteps, they claim, and if you don't have a physical body, physics-wise, how are you making noise? You're floating like an apparition. How are you going to make noise, moans and groans? You don't have lungs, you don't have an audible voice, you don't have any of the stuff that you have in this present physical body, but yet somehow we're to believe that people, you know, hear things, there's tapping on the wall. I mean, it's almost like there's the will to believe, and that's why many of these people want to believe that. So the physics part of it is one that I have a hard time. If you remember the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze, he dies. I forget exactly what caused his death, but and then I think it was Demi Moore. I think that was who was his lover in the movie. Anyways, she goes to Whoopi Goldberg, and I don't want to spoil her for those of you who have not seen it, but you know, given it's a movie, I think in the late 80s, so by now you probably should have. But anyways, I'm gonna give it away. So he's able to, Sam, I think was her husband or lover's name, who's Patrick Swayze. He's trying to show her that, you know, he can see her and he's there with her and she can feel his presence, you know. And then they always talk about, like, oh, you walk into a room and it's cold, and oh, there's a get a chill. I'm like, okay, whatever you want to make of those things. But back to Sam. So he's trying to push the penny, and he can't do it, and that's one of the things he has to try to overcome is that thing I'm talking about, that where he's in this other realm, this other dimension, but yet he's present with our dimension. And how does he actually? So I think that movie does a good job of presenting some of the physical limitations that a ghost or, you know, paranormal apparition would have. And so I've yet to see, and except for in this movie, where this could be set. Even in the movie, it's kind of like, I don't remember how he does it, but eventually he figures out how to move the penny and shows her that, oh, he's really here. And anyways, it's just stuff like that. Like how, and it also ties into, like, to God. Like, if he's some being in another realm, in another dimension, how does he, well, he's God, he's created the universe, he can do all these things. How would you interact with this realm? How would you be able to do things, you know, and just, you know, if you're in this other place, how can you be in two places at the same time? Well, mysteries of God, man, we don't understand. Okay, whatever. So I apply the same thing to the ghosts and stuff and paranormal activity, that, you know, it's like, you see them out there with their little cameras on the shows, you know, with their heat signature things around. Oh, I feel a presence. Ooh, did you touch me? I mean, it's always like, come on, man. These people, it's just, I don't believe it. And you know, I say, well, if you don't believe it, don't ruin it for somebody else who does. Okay, but there's stories like people like, oh, a light turned on, or this, always these things that have other, well, gee, maybe you got a short in your house, maybe it's an electrical issue. I mean, there's always another rationalistic explanation for things that people want to attribute to the paranormal or to God, and I just don't see any good reason. I'm not saying that I know, I'm certain there's no ghosts and there's no God. I mean, I don't know. I'll allow for the possibility, but thus far in my life, and now I know people, I was going to say, thus far in my life, I have not seen any evidence that would lead me to believe that there's any type of paranormal activity or that there's any kind of celestial being. Now, I get it. Other people have experiences. They say they've had some experience with either an angel or a demon or what they presume to be a god, or some kind of, lost loved one or something that, they showed them a sign or something after the grave, and and I don't know, but it's like we don't live in a world where that's what we see. What we see is these events, or these alleged events that take place, supposedly, and we infer certain things from that and say, oh, well, this must be a sign from my grandpa beyond the grave or whatever. And it's like, I don't think there's any good reason. You say, well, what about when you can't explain it, man? There are unexplainable things that happen in the world, and how can you say that these things aren't real? Well, first of all, I can, because that's my opinion, and there's nothing wrong with me saying that. And I don't believe there's good substantial evidence ever been documented for things like Bigfoot or UFOs or any of this stuff. It's always a hoax. The evidence is always shoddy. It's always grainy footage or something that's clearly like, yeah, okay, this, you can tell this is fake. And so with the being this Halloween and ghost stories and that sort of thing, and people like to be scared, and they also like to give meaning to things, whatever it may be that they want to give it to. And it doesn't always have to be that the evidence is so conclusive for these people to believe. And I don't think that there ever has been ghosts or ever will be ghosts or any. I think when you die, there's no afterlife. The only life that we know of is this life. Just like when we see animals die, they don't go, like your pet, your dog, it doesn't go to doggy heaven. It doesn't go, there's none of that stuff. It's like we just have this existence as far as we can tell. One could still, I guess, say I'll hold out, leave for the possibility that there might be, but it doesn't seem like the evidence would support that belief when there's other explanations for things that people want to attribute to paranormal activity. I mean, it just seems ridiculous to me for people to assert these things and say, but I get it. People want to believe whatever the heck they want to believe, but like it's going back to the physics thing. I just can't understand that. I mean, how would they be able to, lose this body and then be some floating apparition that goes through walls and goes, I mean, it's like, well, they don't have a physical body anymore. Okay, but then how are they able to interact with this world? I mean, if they no longer have a body in this sense, how could they move things? I mean, hell, we even have people in this life that aren't of the undead or whatever, that claim they can do, telepathy, mind, move things, bend spoons. I mean, there really hasn't been a lot of great evidence for that. It's well, what about that guy Chris Angel or whatever? I think he was like a magician or whatever. Yeah, okay. I mean, believe whatever you want to believe. I have not seen it, and I get it. When you watch that show with him, it's kind of like, wow, that's amazing stuff. But there's got to be another explanation for what's going on here. Magic and magicians, it's all sleight of hand. You know what I'm saying? It's their con art. They're fooling you. It's an illusion. They're masters of illusions, not masters of magical powers. And of course, if you're in the religious camp, these people that practice magic and all that stuff, oh, they're demonic, and at least that's what I heard growing up. That they're they're of the devil or something like that. But I can't see that we would have ghosts, that we would have paranormal activity, and not have it be documented. Like, man, there's no refuting that. Now, I've seen a number of videos where they seem pretty conclusive, But there's other explanations for, well, no, there's no other way. This could be, there was no one else in the room. They always have these other things that they say and try to prove their point and show you that, no, it's real. There's no other way, man. That this has to be real. This had to be a ghost. It's like, no, we don't see that, and we've not got good documented evidence on video or film, anything, pictures to corroborate these claims. And when you make extraordinary claims, you got to have extraordinary evidence. And I just don't think that we've seen any of that. So is it fun during the month of October for Halloween to watch scary movies, to do all that? So yeah, I have no qualms with that. I mean, back in the day, of course, I would be like, it's the devil's night, because I was involved in Christianity, and you shouldn't celebrate the devil's night, and you shouldn't watch slasher films. I still don't care for those kind of films. If you do, hey, whatever, more power to you. But lost my train of thought. But what was I saying? Yeah, it's fun to get into the spirit of Halloween and do costumes and all that sort of thing. But many times in Christianity, you're not. They frown on that. It's like you can't take your kids out and go trick or treating. Though nowadays, they do this. A lot of churches will do this trunk or treat thing, and I think it's great for the community where they'll decorate the cars and the trunks and put candy. And I think it's a safe place for them to come at one-stop shop kind of for the parent and for the kid, and just go car to car to car and look at the cool decorations. And it seems to be a very safe thing. It's kind of how things have changed. People still do go door to door, and that's cool too. I mean, great. But when I was growing up, it was kind of frowned on. It was like you weren't allowed to do that sort of stuff. And I don't know. I don't feel like disgruntled because I was denied. I mean, I did go a few times growing up, but it's the Christians. Most Christians, if they're fundamentalists, tend to frown on it and don't want you to partake, and they have like a harvest supper or something, like some lame thing at the church that kids are really going to want to go do that. Kids like to get in costume. They like it's fun. That's even adults like to do that. So I think it's perfectly fine. But all right, I've digressed off to discussing. It was kind of like a Halloween video, but it's about the paranormal, and whether or not we have reason to believe that this stuff is real. I don't think that we do. Like I was saying, I think it's fun for people to believe in that and be scared and all that sort of thing. But I think we have some serious limitations if we're going to allow, or at least the apparition or the ghost would have some serious limitations to have to overcome. And I don't think we've documented that, been able to show, except for the movie Ghost, where even that's just a movie. We don't have anything to really show that where they could interact. So when you die, I think that's it. It's it. I don't believe in haunted cemeteries and that sort of thing. I mean, they're dead. They're stiffs. They're rotting corpses in the ground. They're not coming out of the graves like allegedly. I think it was in the book of Matthew, said 500 people came out of the grave and walked among the streets of Jerusalem. Yeah, okay, I'm sure that happened. But yet nobody outside of the Bible wrote that down and documented it. Oh, well, what we have is the historical record, in the book of Matthew of this letter. Oh, yes, but interesting that the other three Gospels never wrote about the dead coming out of their grave. Rather interesting. So look that one up for yourself. It's stuff like that really made you go, interesting. So, and also Jesus allegedly resurrected Lazarus. So, but yet that was only accounted for in the book of John. So, what's up with that? Why didn't we hear about that in the other earlier Gospels that were written before? But no, just that one Gospel. So, most likely not historical accuracy, not accurately accounting for something that took place in history. So, anyhow, I will conclude with all that. That is my Halloween video. I just wanted to get that out there, to you all. Food for thought, something to think about. I hope that you have a happy and safe, happy Halloween, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.